I'm glad you're all here to join us tonight. How many people are new here, have never been here before? Okay, let me tell you something about this. I'm getting a little bit of feedback on this. I'll play with that when I get back there. We are a museum, obviously. We are a 501c3. I never get that right. We are a nonprofit organization. Depot has been a museum for about 8 years. We offer all the things we offer, for example, like this talk tonight, are tours through the museum. We offer Night at the Museum, which will be coming up at the end of this month. We've got numerous programs. We offer free tours, and all this stuff is done by our fundraisings. We have donation boxes in the back. We have memberships that you can purchase. We have grants that we work on. We've got one of our grant writers here tonight, both of our grant writers here tonight. I'm a little lost. Oh, and of course the PCCF, which is one of the people, Polk County Community Foundation, who has assisted us and given us quite a few grants. They're the ones that are sponsoring Night at the Museum this year, and actually they're the ones that have gotten us the sound system we're using tonight. What else do I have to say? Okay. You can tell I'm not really good at this. But we do, if anybody has a burning desire to join us and become a docent, we welcome you to come on down and talk to us, speak to one of the board members, David, Bruce, Nita, Pat, Mary. We're here to answer any questions. We just hope you enjoy the evening tonight. I'm going to turn this over to our program director.
Roland teased me when I first met him in his professional capacity, which now he laughed about and teased me about Gramling, being from Gramling. Well, guess who has moved to Gramling? And then he teased me about Saluda. And guess who has moved, can I say this, your business? To Tryon.
Right, which is closer.
So that gives me a special pleasure to not only is he a financier and financial planner, but he is an international trained person. He is Swiss born. And I'll never say it right. Gotthard. See, but tonight I want you to listen to him because he's traveled so much by train, so many places through different countries. And I first heard him talk about, oh yeah, then the guys go to Germany and Austria, and I go over and I'd say, oh, Linnea, how do you put up with him? It's a good deal. So we want to welcome him and listen to why we care, even if I can't pronounce it, why we care about the tunnel. And thank you so much.
Sure, okay. Does anybody know where this is? Well, no, not this. Okay. Yeah, okay. Because I'm going to talk about the tunnel, which made news, but I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff first, which is a whole lot more fun. So, as Mary said, I grew up in Switzerland, and for a long time, the only mode of transportation I had getting around in Switzerland was the train, because trains literally cover every square mile of the country. And since Rail 2000, the year 2000, they changed the system, so now every single railway station has passenger train service every 30 minutes, and it's all coordinated, which means you can travel by train, bus, boat, cable car throughout the whole country, and one will wait for the other. And it's the only country that I know of where everything is on time, and if it's not on time, it only misses the schedule by maybe a minute to 2 minutes. And there's actually a federal law in place that if a train is more than 3 minutes late, that you are entitled to a reimbursement of your fare. Okay, so that's a Swiss thing, you know, and Swiss are anal when it comes to, like me, you know, being late, you know, so everything is like according to, you know, everybody lives according to a strict clock. And if you're going on the train and the train leaves at 6:53, don't get there at 6:54, it's gone. So, but anyway, that is the Swiss flag. And so the whole point tonight is to say, or, again, Mary, she recruited me, strong-armed me to be here. So I'm here under duress. But there is a point. The Gotthard Mountain is a mountain, but the Gotthard Pass is kind of like right here. And just like here in the U.S., where do containers come from with junk in them? China. Okay, where do most of them land? Long Beach, California, and then they go on trains. Well, Port Rotterdam, way up there in Holland, is one of the largest deep-sea ports in Europe. And guess what? Commerce from all over the world via ships lands here in the North Atlantic. They unload their cargo, a lot of it. I mean, there's Hamburg and everything else, but Rotterdam is a big city. And down here is Genoa, Italy. And then there's the Mediterranean. So for goods that arrive in Rotterdam to get down here, there's two routes. The water route, which means all the way down around Spain, through the Strait of Gibraltar, and then east, or straight through Europe. And straight through Europe, you've got this little country right here, which has a lot of big mountains, and those mountains get in the way of things. So the why Gotthard? Well, Gotthard is right here, and I'll go a lot more into details as far as, you'll see it. So, but more important is the size of Switzerland. North Carolina is 3.1 times the size of Switzerland, or the other way around is Switzerland is less than 1/3 the size of North Carolina. Or to put it in perspective, here's Switzerland, here's DC, Dover, Delaware, Harrisburg. It's a very small country. And 1/3 of the country has very high mountains. And those mountains put up a fight if you want to get across them. Let's see, what else? Switzerland has, as of today, just to, again, put it in perspective, Switzerland's 1/3 the size of North Carolina. It has 3,200 route miles of standard railroad track. 3,200 miles. It has over 700 miles of narrow gauge and about 380 miles of rack railways. So it's a very dense rail network in a very small country. Switzerland, again, small, has 74 railway companies. Okay? And the rail density is immense. This is the end, it's a little fuzzy, but this is the entry point going into Zurich railway station. Today, Zurich railway station has about 3,298 trains every 24 hours. In 3 layers, and in the station, Lena's been there, and again, there used to be 1, and now it's 2. There's 3 levels with 56 tracks, and they're still expanding it. So, a lot of trains in Switzerland. Let's see, next up is, why trains? Well, ta-da, okay, Gotthard Pass, jammed up. This is what it's like trying to head over the mountains during the summer, vacation time. You're sitting there for hours and hours on end. So trains are somewhere else. They run right through the mountain and over the mountain. Okay, so a little bit of statistics, as I said earlier. The straight route from north to south, 732 miles. 2,390 miles, the sea route. So if you want cargo to move from one end of Europe to the other, well, guess what? The boat route is not going to get your stuff there very quick. Major cargo today, it's containers. It's literally every product like we have here. Also raw materials, everything from wood, coal, and just ore mining, things of that. So, I'm at the end of my little chat here, I'm going to go into the new base tunnel that was just finished in 2016. But statistically, right now, about 130 freight trains go through the base tunnel every day, about 50 passenger trains, and within the next 3 years, the Swiss Federal Railway is planning on having about 260 freight trains go through the tunnel every 24 hours with speeds 124 mile an hour freight, 150 mile an hour passenger. So this is a big endeavor, but they'll do it. You know, they finished the tunnel 6 months ahead of schedule. Okay, so again, you know, not meeting these goals is not an option. So, good old days. I know this is a sketch, but the Gotthard Mountain Range Pass was first built in the 13th century. So, you know, I remember, you know, if you wanted anything, you had to cover, you know, go across the mountains. A lot of this whole region here was part of the Roman Empire for hundreds of years. And so, yeah, good old days. And then you have the not so good old days. Okay, Switzerland has big mountains and strong winters. So I found this picture. It looks kind of cool, you know, because it's like a typical Swiss guy smoking his pipe, you know, as the horses go over the edge. But this was a challenge for hundreds of years, and so this was very good. I mean, this was an incentive to say, you know, let's find a transportation system, you know, to make this a little bit more efficient. So this you can visit today. This is called the Devil's Bridge. This is part of the original Gotthard Road, but you know, before cars, and it's a you know, you can't drive over it. You know, they're preserving it. You know, but this is about 600 years old, and it still stands today. And then if I have time at the end, I'll explain why they call it the Devil's Bridge. There's a little story behind it. So along comes 1830. In 1830, they actually built the first real road. So you can drive on this road today. Okay, this right here is the southern side of the mountain pass. And you can see it kind of disappears at the very top. It never goes to a tunnel. The road always is above ground. But the same thing is on the north side. So while I was growing up, just like here people to go to Myrtle Beach, when you live in Switzerland and you have a holiday weekend, you go to the Italian beaches, which means on Friday afternoon, everybody gets in their car, drives south, and you have to go over this pass. So I remember many, many trips where my parents had a Volkswagen Beetle, and it had a little window in the back and a little place to hang out. I'd be in the back there, you know, sleeping, and they'd drive through the night, and the next morning wake up and we're in Italy. But it was a challenge. You imagine like a 38, 40 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle, you know, with people and luggage, and multiply that by about 1,000 per hour, grinding their way over this mountain pass. And then at the end of the holiday weekend, it's a complete reversal. Everybody wants to come back. So there had to be a better mousetrap. So, all right. So back to the route specifics. So what I'm going to focus things on here a little bit is the actual route. And here you can see Switzerland. The red area is going to be the focal point over the next like half hour or so. And Como is Italy. At the very top is Lucerne, which is the center of Switzerland. So this is where all the action happens. And I know I'm not 100% in the loop with the loops, but I know that Norfolk Southern or Southern, was it east? East of here, there are loop tracks. Well, this is a map from this map right here is from 1909. But it shows the original Gotthard Mountain Pass, railroad pass. So at the very top is the north end, and you have loops and complete spirals to gain elevation. And then these two are on the southern side of the Alps, where again you have loops to, bring you back down to close to sea level. Again, built in the late 1800s with pickaxes and lots of labor and dynamite. So this was quite an endeavor. Now, this just shows an elevation map. Okay, so keep it real simple. On the left is the northern start of the pass. Here's the southern end. This is the elevation. So this route, before the big tunnel was built, the rail line went up a long time, and then this little section right here is the original Gotthard Tunnel, which you'll actually go right through it with one of the videos that I have. Okay. And let's see, what else can I tell you here? So here comes the railroad. Started in 1872. First section opened in 1875. It was completed in 1882. So this entire route, with all the spirals and curlicues and everything else, took about 9 years to complete, which, again, with manual labor and the conditions, that's, it's hard, it's unimaginable, about what they did. So also fully electrified in 1920. The entire route is 134 miles long. Average gradient 2.7%, which saluda grade here is what, like 5 something, I think? Is that? Okay, but this is average. So, the trains climb, and then they ride the brakes on the back side. Back in the old days, you ride the brakes. Today, it's the dynamic brakes. Back then, again, late 1870s, it cost 238 million Swiss francs to build, which in today's dollars would be about $7.2 billion. And if I go back to, just let me see here. This section right here, that's the original Gotthard Tunnel. It's 9.3 miles long. So even back in the late 1870s, building a 9-point-something mile long tunnel with technology of the day was quite a challenge. All right, here's another, this is a real photograph. So this bridge still stands today. So, built in finished in 1882, 40 years later, it still runs, holds trains every day. Okay, nice steam engine. Okay, how would you like to be in the coach with this thing in front of you? Probably not going more than, 35 miles an hour through a 9-something mile long tunnel. Yeah, it had to be rough. Okay, the Gotthard line has a total of 36 or 39 tunnels. So at some point, you were, as a passenger, I don't know, but you probably had black lung disease at some point or another.
How do they ventilate those tunnels from the smoke?
You can't. It's literally shut the windows. Really? Shut the window. Now going down, remember, no, actually, most of these tunnels are level, so the engine always was under power. But there's no, other than just being a really good, fireman and knowing not to, overstoke things. But no, these tunnels were full of basically toxic fumes, and they would linger. So, they wouldn't clear themselves out. Now that's all changed, but again, good old days. What really made the difference is these things right here. Full electrification in 1920. So this is a classic crocodile engine. So every Swiss boy that likes model trains always wanted a crocodile. I've got one. When we first met, Linnea bought me a Z-scale crocodile. Okay. I've got an HO1 too. But that's why it was important to get electrification going right away, because that took care of all the stink and everything else. And then the grand celebration, 1882. The big railway is done. All right, so as I mentioned to you, Mike, this right here is a...
I can ask a question while you're waiting for that.
Yes.
You mentioned in the beginning, you said standard,
standard,
something else.
narrow gauge,
Okay, so what is it?
Narrow gauge is a meter gauge, just like 3-foot gauge, and rack railways, meaning you have a cog.
Oh, cog. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's the difference. All right, I see.
Okay. So this is 18-minute video, and I can talk because this is SFB stands for Swiss Federal Railway, and they have an entity called Historic. So years ago, the Swiss federal government gave money to the preservation of old rail equipment. And this right here is a powered coach that you can buy tickets on, and if you have a little more than just a few bucks, you can actually rent the whole thing and invite your friends. And they provide cheese fondue and wine and beer and everything else, but you can see the route. So this historic rail line journey here is not the entire thing. It only covers the north ramp through the original Gotthard Tunnel. But just imagine, this was built finished in 1882. And you notice, trains run on the left side. And the reason being is the Swiss adopted the British way of running trains. And back whenever, 17, 18, 35, 40, so you can see the average speed, 17 kilometers an hour is like 11 miles an hour. In the mid-70s, trains could average 50. Today, they're governed to run a steady 100 kilometers an hour, which is 62.5 miles an hour. And they run, guess what, a regular 30-minute schedule, both freight and passenger. And, and for example, Foothills Tunnel, 1,400 meters, 360 degrees. 1,400 meters is just shy of a mile, but 360 degrees. It's doing a spiral. I speeded this up through the tunnel so we don't sit there. As you can see, it's kind of like fast. But the train right now just did a 360. And voila, you're back out and then back into the next tunnel. I mean, just a short version here. And now we are heading south. So this would be so this is the route that both, basically freight trains coming from Rotterdam going down to Genoa would use this route, and this is also a passenger line. But this valley here, you'll notice, it starts getting narrower and narrower. And at some point, there's no more place for it to go. Then you end up going through the original tunnel. And these big structures here are they're basically avalanche, they're like snow sheds, but for rocks. That's why they're made out of concrete. This thing right here, do you know what that is? Okay, power station. Hydroelectric power. The Swiss, this line, but actually most of Switzerland's railway system is basically self-sufficient when it comes to electricity. And the line through the mountains is 100% fueled with hydroelectric power. So nothing more than water coming down from the higher areas through pipes, runs generators. Been doing that for 150 years. Off to the left is a highway bridge. And then up on top you see a little church, the white church, the Vossen Church. So on this route you end up seeing the church 3 times. On the left, and then you go through spirals, then on the right, and you go through spirals, and then on the left, and then you're kind of done. And then you go into the next hole here. And it's going to speed up a little bit as you go through it. Yeah, if you have any questions, just fire off. We've got about 14 more minutes of this thing. Yes, sir?
Can you explain the spirals again, what the purpose for them?
Gain elevation. Nothing more than a helix. Yeah.
Do you know what kind of stone that the mountains are made out of?
Granite.
It is granite. Wow.
And dirt.
That's bad.
Yes.
That's bad.
So when I get to the tunnel part, I'll talk about it a little bit more. But here you can see, all right, so here's the church on the right. And then, then you go back into the hole for a little bit. and you spiral. I mean, it starts looking the same after a while, so you get really confused, because if you have a smartwatch, you're saying, wait a minute, I'm going east, I'm going south, I'm going north. You know, it gets very confusing. But again, just the fact that in 1870 to, you know, early 1880s, somebody built this thing, you know, and they bore these holes, and they built bridges, and today it still runs. You know, there's never been a failure. No bridge has ever collapsed. No tunnels ever collapsed. So it's kind of amazing.
Landslides?
What's that?
Landslides?
No,
Wow.
no. They do a lot of preemptive measures. You know, like blasting rocks out of the way and things like that. All I can say is, if you ever travel to Switzerland, look up the Gotthard historic route. And you know, you can take a conventional train, you know, which is not this thing right here, and it's a fun ride. But if you can get on the historic, this is really neat. This is like a, you know, a little private vacation. Yes.
We always talk about how many of the people working on the railroad were killed here.
Yeah. Officially, 199. Officially. Officially. Unofficially, probably a lot more, because back then the labor was from Italy, migrant workers, and a lot of them really had no identity. So there probably wasn't a record, you know. So my assumption is, going through these mountains with, you know, with really pickaxes and dynamite over 9 years, I guess more than 199 guys got wiped out. Okay. So.
Did they line the tunnels after they dug them?
Yes. Yeah. So now, you know, again, we're kind of spiraling. So if you remember the first view, the church was above you. Now we're kind of on the same. The next one, the church will be below you. But no, the tunnels are all lined with concrete these days. Originally they weren't. Yeah, originally they were just, you know, holes. And, you know, classic advanced signal, you know, diagonal green is good, horizontal yellow meaning it's an approach to a red signal. And the mountains are getting a little taller, and the road has disappeared down to the right. And yet another tunnel.
What is the elevation above sea level there?
Not the top of the mountain, but where the rail line crests, it's about 7,000 feet. Okay, again, so, you know, 1,000 meters, you know, 3,000, or, you know, a little over 3,000 feet, 180-degree turn. So when you don't hear it here, but if you're in the train, you can hear you can hear some squealing going on.
Are the ties still timber, or have they been replaced with?
These are.
I really can't tell there.
No, these are all timber.
They are timber.
They're still timber ties. Yeah. This right here, I mean, it'll say right here, this is an on-demand stop. So if you're going to go hiking, you know, you can basically tell the engine driver that you want to get off. And right there, there's a walking path. And, you know, if you have a fear of heights, it's pretty creepy. You know, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, there, you know, you walk down and you walk through the bridge, and then you have endless walking trails. You know, here there'd be like warning signs. You can't do this, you can't do there. There it's like, well, have at it, you know. Yeah, if you fall down. Well, and people do end up in the abyss quite often. You know,
You've been on this?
What's that?
Yourself?
Yes. Yeah, I have a picture at the very end of me actually driving an engine. Yeah, but this right here, a friend of guy, Jean-Pierre and I, in 2014, we got geeked out because I looked the picture up. It was 2014, so 9 years ago. And the experience, because we booked it way ahead, was 5 Swiss francs, which was like $6. Okay, really, because it's literally like it's a museum gift to the public. It's just, it books out, you know, way in advance. So, go ahead.
How much snow do they get there?
Wait. Okay. My next little video will show you. Okay, just keep that thought in mind. So remember, you saw the valley on the right, then the valley on the left, on the right, now it's on the left. So now we're kind of done. Now we're leaving the church behind. And remember, this is, other than speeding up in the tunnels, what we're doing right now is the real trip. So it doesn't take that long. And some of the signals are still going back to the steam days. They actually left them there just for historic purposes because they had signs, not light signals. And Mike, you can see that the inside of the tunnels now are, stone and concrete for obvious reasons. And then you have these other little structures, back before signaling that there actually used to be guys along the track. And they would actually, there was, guess what, there was electricity back in the 1870s, but they'd have a bell system. And so if you're a track employee, you have your little booth. You'd have to walk to it. And then you spent your shift in your little booth. And when a train came by, you went in your little booth and you had like a Morse code. It's just a signal code. But that rang a bell, and we're talking a big bell. These things are like huge, in the next signal operator's little box. So that guy knew the train is on the way. And then he would relay it to the station and so on and so forth. That was the extent of signaling. This you can see, 1982. So this structure is brand new. It's much newer. This is a snow shed, and but well-worn railway keeper's house. Yes, been there over 100 years. But you actually, you know what? You can buy these. Not the railroad, but you can buy these little keeper houses. They're for sale. Really? Yes. Nobody wants them. The railway doesn't want them, but you can actually buy. Real estate in Switzerland is prohibitively expensive. You get to this region, it's dirt cheap, and some of it's actually free. The county just asks you to maintain it. But not too many people would say, "Yeah, I'm going to go move to the Swiss mountains and live in a little shack next to a rail line." It's like, even though it's free, it's like, yeah, this is a little too funky. So, okay, now we're getting near the top. And while we're riding on this train, underneath the tunnel is being drilled. Okay, so at the same time frame, this railroad, this train is running right now. Underneath the mountain right here are actually, the Gotthard base tunnel is actually 2 tunnels, and you'll see it in a minute. So this is fairly modern. This is again for snow and rock debris keeping the track safe. And so I can actually speed this up just a. Whoops. No. Actually, I'm going to move to the next one because it really just, okay, to answer your question, does it snow up there? Okay. So about less than a mile where the other video just ended is Gershenen. Gershenen is at the top of the pass. So we just went up the north route. This is the top, and then it goes in the Gotthard Tunnel, and then it goes south on the other end. But this is your typical July day in Switzerland. No, I'm not just kidding. Yeah. But Gershenen, again, if you like trains, you can get off on a passenger train. You just get off here, because remember, every 30 minutes a train comes. And you can just, summer it's nicer, but if you just feel like watching trains, you just get off, and about every 8 to 10 minutes, a train comes through. Okay, this is a classic local. But notice the panorama car, with the nice big windows, so you got a really nice view of things. But yeah, they get a lot of snow.
And if you were standing at that station, it would stop for you.
And you what?
If you were standing at that station, the train would stop for you.
Yes, it's a schedule. And if you miss it, and if you're cold and you miss it, you go inside, get a cocoa or something, and it goes exactly by the schedule. This right here is what's called an ICN, an inner city N stands for Naigetsu, which is a tilt train. So this train right here actually tilts into the corners, and it reduces wear and tear on the track, and it makes the ride very comfortable because you don't even feel the cornering part. This is a RE1010 combo, which is really the two classic electrics. One has about 7,000, the other 11. So those two locomotives together have about 18,000 horsepower. And now he is heading north. So literally, if we were there, we would see this kind of traffic. You can say, well, at some point you say, well, I've seen enough trains. Okay, let's do something else. But you can see how it goes down. In other words, this is the crest, and it's just like standing out here. You can really see the track going down. Here's an ICN coming, heading south. So
What month of the year is that?
this right here is December.
Does that stay open with the snow? Nobody clears it?
Well-
It stays open because of the traffic?
You're used to it, it just.
But the train keeps the
Nothing.
snow.
Oh, yeah.
How does it get the power? Is it from top?
Yes, yeah. It's all electric, all catenary, all from the top.
Streetcars.
So
Yeah.
it's many trains, it's not much of build up of snow.
Yeah. I mean, literally, once it's cleared, trains start running. Freight trains run 24 hours a day, but passenger trains usually start about 5-something in the morning. So yeah, there's just so much traffic that it never really piles up. And then it's kind of the end of it here, but this right here is today's Swiss workhorse. It's a Class 460. They're made by a Swedish consortium, and that single locomotive today has about 14,000 horsepower. Which is it's a beast.
What you showed before, is that used commercially, or is that just for show? Maybe with the-
You mean the original one?
Yeah.
That's the rail car.
Just the whole area of the driver thing. This is much more commercial, much more industrialized going to the tunnel.
Yeah, no. If the snow cleared, there's nothing there.
No, I'm saying, you still think it's a much more developed track, which you showed earlier.
Oh no, yeah. This is sort of, it's a yard, and it's also a traffic funnel because on the tunnel side where this guy's coming out of, you have for a while 2 tracks going into 4, and then they come back together into 1. And so often during heavy freights, freight buildup, the freight trains kind of stack up on this side of the tunnel until they get authority to go through the tunnel and head down towards Italy. But even though it looks real busy, Göttingen, there's nothing there. It's a community of maybe 200 or 300 people. It's just a busy, it's just a busy place with trains. So, okay. So anyway, so I'm going to go through my cheat sheet here. Okay, so now for something completely different. So now we went over the mountain. And this is it's German, but basically it's the red tubes, that's the tunnel, that's the base tunnel. They started it in 1999, completed in 2016. There's actually 2 tunnels, and they carry traffic, again, left-hand driving, this tunnel here heads south, this one here heads north, and then you see these little crosses, and those crosses are basically emergency escape hatches. And there is one crossover, and then this blue thing right here are, again, escape routes. And escape routes with 2 elevators, and then actual tunnels for people to get out from the tunnel in case of an emergency.
Wow.
which hasn't, you know, I'll get into one little mishap of a few months ago, but, you know, passengers are very safe. Cargo got kind of messed up here a little bit recently, but also one thing, back to the point, Mike, that you made up as far as like, you know, asphyxiating in a tunnel. Remember, this tunnel is 35.5 miles long, so I looked it up. It's like from here to downtown Greenville.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's 2. And it's not a straight line. It has gradients, it has curvatures. So, you know, it's not just a straight hole going through. And with speeds of, you know, 120 to 150 some odd miles an hour, just imagine what happens when the train blasts into the tunnel. Pressure. And uncontrolled, that pressure would blow out the windows and it'd rupture your eardrums. So they have a ventilation system that actually creates a vacuum in front of every train coming through. And it has to run an exact schedule because you can't have, you know, basically too much pressure being built up when 2 trains enter the same part of the tunnel at the same time. So it's actually quite, it's interesting, it's very sophisticated. But the fact is that this tunnel here, in its deepest point, is 2.9 kilometers, which is about 1.5 miles below surface, below the surface. It's kind of mind-boggling. Wow. Okay, remember, this is all in a country that is 1/3 the size of North Carolina, and we're only talking 1/3 of 1/3. So, any questions on this?
Is that 1 rail per tube or 2 rails?
1 rail per tube. Yep.
What's the population of Switzerland?
What's that?
What's the population of Switzerland?
Is it a state middle?
You mean these?
No,
Oh, this.
The ladder rungs.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 1 crossover. Yeah, just in case of emergency. And this right here is the north entrance. So this is the original rail line going to the north ramp. This is the rail line that we just rode at the end of the valley. This is the tunnel starting. And this is the southern side. I mean, there's not much to it. It's just, you know, basically holes in the ground, okay, but very long. And this right here, let me see, hopefully it loads. Okay, this is it's like a 3 or 4 minute video. This video was made by the company that actually makes the boring machine. So they kind of pitch it a little bit, but it's good enough to watch, so.
The Gotthard Massif. Deep inside the mountains, Switzerland is building the longest tunnel in the world, bringing the north and south of Europe closer together. The Gotthard Base Tunnel. 2 tubes, each 57 kilometers in length. An enormous challenge for the 4 tunnel boring machines from Herrenknecht.
There we go, from Herrenknecht.
The machine components are transported to the site by road and ship. Assembling the 90,000 individual parts, precision work with extremely heavy components. A masterly achievement by the Herrenknecht specialists. Tunneling under difficult geological conditions. With a deafening noise, the machine carves its way through the hard rock. Cutter head overhaul. The disc cutters have pressed themselves against the rock with a pressure of 26 tons. This takes a toll. Delight in finding
It's after hours, you know.
an important milestone is reached. The journey continues for the high-tech giant, weighing 3,000 tons. Transport to the next site. Assembly of the tunnel boring machine for the Erstfeld-Amsteg section. Each part is in the right place after 7 months. Machine and man do their best every single day. 6 months ahead of schedule. Precise breakthrough into the Amsteg cavern. The machine has meanwhile excavated 20 kilometers of tunnel. Now it is being dismantled and transported out of the tunnel. Sedrin section, October 15th, 2010. The final destination has been reached. This breakthrough is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I don't mean to belittle other projects by saying this, but this is a key project for me, and I'm glad that I was able to participate in this top-class project at the St. Gotthard Mountain with 4 TBMs. Words cannot describe my happiness. Has been conquered. 11 years of construction, 152 kilometers of tunnels, galleries, and shafts, more than 13 million cubic meters of excavated material, a milestone for European transport policy and for the tunnel boring machines manufactured by Heron Connect.
Heron Connect. So, anyway, it's a cool video, even though it's a pitch, for the company.
Completion of the second tunnel, like you said in the earlier.
That was only one section of one tunnel. Yeah. So basically, you had 4 of these tunnel boring machines. 2 started in the north, 2 in the south, and 9 years later they met.
Wow.
And the accuracy is 2.9 centimeters off, which is about 1.5 inches, which, I guess, I'm sure there's some Swiss guy that's like lost sleep over it. It's like, but I mean, just given the scope. And for those who like HO model trains, there's actually a kit available, but it does not have 90,000 parts. One thing, I don't know if you caught that, or, that at the very beginning of the video, they talk about the thing got wedged. Okay, so about 3 years into the project, one of the tunnel machines got stuck because it went from solid rock to mud, and the mud it got stuck. So they actually had to build a tangent tunnel, which took almost 2 years to dig the machine out to get it going again. It added, I don't know, probably another $1 billion to the whole project.
So why did they know that the mud was there?
Well, they I mean, you can only go by geological studies, but like one of the guys that when we're riding the train, he said, you think rock, you think mountains are solid rock, they're not. They're hollow, they're caved, they have waterfalls, they're swamps. It's hot, it's over 100 degrees, because you get closer to the core of the earth. And it changes, and I was mentioning to somebody about like the climate change. The earth is warming, which means a lot of the permafrost is thawing out, and it's putting parts of the earth in motion. So actually, the tunnel's actually flexible. It's designed to withstand expansion, contraction, and a little movement. So last, as far as the tunnel is concerned, let's see. This happened in August of this year. So this is a wreck. So August of just a couple months ago, a southbound freight train, a wheel broke. Had nothing to do with the tunnel, had nothing to do with the railway system, a wheel broke. But at a very high speed, it came undone and it wedged itself in. And literally just about 2 weeks ago, the tunnel is back in operation. They had to rebuild the walls and everything. So stuff happens. But nobody got hurt. But it made the mountain line, which was almost sort of like, should we keep it or not keep it? No. Not only are we keeping it, we are maintaining it. So the Swiss Federal Railroad, when this happened, made a very quick decision that not only are we going to maintain it for historic purposes, but we're actually going to maintain it back at mainline levels, because we realize that this is still a problem. And even though they want 260 freight trains to go through this thing at some point, they already know that in the real world with real traffic and problems, it's probably never going to happen, which means at some point down the road, the mountain route will probably start seeing more and more traffic again. So anyway, that's kind of the end of my talk, a little longer with a little hiccup, but anyway.